Welcome to High Sobriety. Our goal is to save lives and remove the stigma of addiction. Here's the host of High Sobriety, John Mabry.
Hello, thank you for listening to Addiction Campuses High Sobriety Podcast. I'm your grateful recovering host, John Mabry, and today on our show, we've got Doug Bopst, and he is an award-winning personal trainer, author, speaker, and business owner. Those credentials and accolades are a result of his own transformation from the inside out. He's a former felon. Listen to this. He's a former felon and drug addict sentenced to years in jail due to his poor decisions. That may break some people, but he chose to use that time locked up in a cell to beat his demons, reinvent himself, thanks to the combination of faith, family, and fitness, which is a title of his book as well. He's helped hundreds of people improve their health and wellness, and he's going to share some of his experience, strength, and hope with us on the call. But before we bring him on, I also want to say that he's the author of 2 books. First one, From Felony to Fitness to Free, written to inspire people that they too can turn a negative into a positive and to make the most out of their second chance, as well as written Faith, Family, and Fitness to encourage readers to grow closer to God, believe in themselves, and surround themselves with the best, and to stay mentally, physically, and spiritually fit. Doug, thank you so much for being on High Sobriety.
John, thanks for having me. I mean, I'm really, appreciative of you welcoming me to your show, and I'm hoping that this will inspire, like you said, some experience, strength and hope in people to get going.
Man, and I think one area that I actually haven't covered this topic in a podcast interview yet, so I'm really grateful for you being the one to do it, to talk about fitness and how fitness fits into a recovery program, or can fit into a recovery program if somebody out there is struggling. The importance of staying physically healthy can also carries over into the mental and emotional and spiritual life as well. They all kind of work together, I have found. So looking forward to you sharing some insights with us to help our audience. And the way I got connected with you is one of our past guests, Amy Dresner. Her book is My Favorite Junkie. Amazing, raw, gritty, interesting book about her addictions to drugs and alcohol and sex and pretty much anything under the sun. And what's crazy is, so she's seen me post me doing workouts. I've got a prosthetic leg, and she sees me like boxing at the gym, and she said that her seeing my social media posts inspired her to go work on her fitness, and she reached out to you, and you're training with her. Is that right?
Yeah, I'm training. I've been training her. She's gained a lot of muscle, and she's super awesome, and her book was phenomenal, like you said. And I just love people and helping people in recovery use fitness to change their lives, because we could talk more about it, as we get more into the show, but I think fitness and nutrition and like wellness are some of the most underutilized tools to help people in recovery and help people from addiction, because I think mental health and physical health go hand in hand. And I think before we start, looking at all these medications and everything, which I'm not against, but why don't we look at what we can do holistically with what we have inside of ourselves first before turning to some, outside source to make ourselves feel better.
Absolutely. And, a lot of times people in recovery, they give up the drugs and the alcohol or the substance, and they turn to something else. They, replace it with, sugar, eating, not moving around as much. And so this is a great topic for us to cover. Man, let's go in. I want to go ahead and just ask you, you got an incredible story, and our listeners need to hear it straight from you. I'm not going to steal any of your thunder. So please take us through your journey, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, John. So, growing up, my parents got divorced when I was 5, and, I was an active kid, and the divorce I didn't handle it well. It was kind of traumatic for myself, I can say. And, as, a young toddler or whatever you want to call a 5-year-old, you see a lot of this stuff happening, and, your parents get split, and it obviously, and it caused some pain inside of me, and that, along with some other things, caused me to get depressed at a fairly young age. And I was active. I played sports, but unlike my friends, I couldn't keep weight off, even though I was as active as my friends, doing the same thing, eating the same things that they did. And I started gaining weight at a young age. And by the time I was 9 or 10 years old, I was, a little doughy. I was pretty pudgy as a kid, and I got bullied in middle school. I got bullied a little bit in high school too. And it just, created this, insecurity within myself and lack of confidence and self-esteem. And so I never handled it the right way, in a healthy way. So for me, I got offered a hit off of a marijuana pipe when I was 14 years old. And that in turn led to me, I was like, holy crap, I can smoke weed. And I felt like this monkey come off my back. I felt like I could be at peace with who I was. I felt like I could just numb my pain. And I was like, sweet, I can just smoke pot and then my sorrows will go away. And I honestly didn't know where it was going to lead me. But, it started with that. And then I ended up just selling a little bit to support my habit. And then sure enough, you realize that, it can't cure you. So I barely graduated high school because I was just running around with my friends, smoking pot, going on joy rides. And I was then picked up more of a selling habit. I was selling a ton of pot to make money. And I was like, well, why would I want to make $8, $9, $10 an hour when I can sell pot and make a good profit? Even though it ended up that I was putting all my profits up my nose. After I graduated high school, I started experimenting with cocaine, which I really liked because it made me feel, again, that dopamine response made me feel amazing about myself. And that of course hit a wall too. And I was smoking like an 8-ball a night, and I didn't really know that cocaine and anxiety don't mix. So for me who struggled with anxiety and depression growing up, cocaine exacerbated my anxiety. And couple that with the fact that I had no self-esteem and no purpose and just absolutely no hope of what I was going to do with the rest of my life, I started experiencing extreme anxiety even when I started smoking pot. And a lot of people don't know that marijuana is classified as a hallucinogen, and that marijuana in some people can create significant paranoia. And I just happened to succumb to that. I mean, I don't know if it was a combination of the fact that I'd smoked so much, or that it was a point in my life, or whatever. Make a long story short, I ended up getting offered a Percocet, a 5 milligram Percocet from a friend, and I figured out I could take a Percocet and smoke weed and not have a panic attack. And I was like, wow, this is a good idea. I'm just going to start smoking weed and taking painkillers, and my troubles will be healed. And that 5 milligram Percocet, as we all know, turned into me snorting 300-400 milligrams of Oxycontin every day. I was 20 at this point, when my habit got really bad, and I was selling probably close to $10,000 worth of pot a week to support my habits. I was in and out of strip clubs. I was putting all that stuff up my nose, and I hit a point, like a low bottom in my life, on Cinco de Mayo 2008, when I was riding around with a few of my friends to go pick up some Oxycontin. And I had a half a pound of pot in my car and a bunch of cash, and I had a headlight out that I've been meaning to get fixed. I never got fixed, and anyway, I got pulled over for high beaming a cop to try to mask the fact that my headlight was out. Not a good idea on Cinco de Mayo. And I got pulled over, and my friend in the backseat had an open container of beer, and that's just one thing led to the next. Sure enough, I'm pulled out of the car, and they searched my car, and they found the half pound of pot, all the money, and I was charged with felony, intent to distribute marijuana. And I thought my life was over at that point. I was sitting in the back of his cop car, and I was in handcuffs, and I was like, man, what have I done? And I went to court in September. I didn't, when I got out, when I got bailed out, I didn't even think about cleaning my life up. I was like, well, I'm just going to go keep doing drugs. And so I went to court in September of 2008, September 30th, 2008. The judge sentenced me to 5 years. He suspended my sentence for me to serve everything but 90 days, but I was backing up 5 years. So if I violated my probation, or if I messed up, I would have had to serve the full 5 years instead of the 90 days. 5 years probation, 200 hours community service, all kinds of drug classes and fines. He looked at me and said, Doug, you're young, you're 20 years old. He's like, if you complete all the stipulations without messing up once, I'll take the felony off your record. And at that point, I was 20, and I didn't think I was going to live to see 25. So I was like, well, I don't know. And so I reported to jail about a week after my 21st birthday, October 21st, 2008. I was crying, I was bitching and moaning, and the last thing I did was, snorted 160 milligrams of Oxycontin before I went into jail. And I was like, well, this is it. And I had no idea about the withdrawal, how bad it was going to be cold turkey. And I went through about 2 to 3 weeks of just horrible withdrawal, horrible. And it made me realize, man, what have I done with my body? I was like, I never want to feel like this again. And my cellmate was like, you're going to start working out with me. And I was like, dude, I don't work out, man. Like at the time I was 50, 60 pounds heavier than I am now. I could have been a model for Pillsbury. And I remember getting down to do a push-up after like my cellmate like begging me enough. I was like, I'll give it a try. I couldn't even do one. I couldn't even do it for my knees. And it was at that moment I was like, man, what have I done to myself? Look at how weak I am. Look at how embarrassed I am in front of a bunch of grown men. And it just motivated me. And my cellmate Eric, he trained me every day when I was in there for exchange for some commissary, and he held me accountable, and I lost like 10 to 15 pounds. I was able to run a mile. I was able to do a set of like 10 push-ups when I left. But that wasn't like the thing. It was like what it did for me mentally, how I felt about myself, the confidence it gave me, the importance of achieving goals, the importance of like knowing that, you know, you got to take care of yourself like physically for you to feel better. And he gave me a workout plan the day I left jail, and I like cried when I left. So I was like, man, like I've never felt like this taken care of before by somebody unconditionally. And I got out. He gave me the workout plan. I still have it framed in my place today, so I never forget where I came from. Hired a trainer, lost 50 pounds, and then got to a point where I wanted to help other people use fitness to change their lives. So I became a trainer back in 2010 or 2011, and I've been doing it ever since. And you know, you kind of know you're in the right industry because, you know, time kind of flew by. I was very blessed to build a pretty successful training business, and the felony came off my record in January of 2014 because I haven't touched, you know, any drugs since, and I changed all my friends. I moved, I changed all my habits, got connected to God, and the felony came off my record. And you know, I just never really realized how much your life can change in a matter of seconds when the judge takes the conviction felony off of your record. And then so I got out of court, and I was inspired me to write my first book, From Felony to Fitness to Free, to inspire people to make the most of their second chance, you know, turn a negative into a positive, and show that, you know, life's about the choices you make, not necessarily about your circumstances. Like I could have dealt with my stress, my trauma, and all that stuff in a healthy way, but I chose to do it in an unhealthy way. And then I've just been on a mission ever since to just help change as many people's lives as I can. And, you know, Faith Family Fitness came about back in 2016 because I wanted to help people use a lot of life experiences that I've had. I mean, I'm 30 now, but I feel like I'm 60 because I had to grow up super quick in my 20s, because it was either I was going to go to the left and I was going to maintain whatever lifestyle I was doing and end up dead in jail, or a combination of both, or I was going to go to the right and I was going to have to grow up really quick, you know, and learn how to be an adult and take care of myself. And that's, unfortunately, I'm blessed that I went that way. And so I wanted to pass on like the lessons I've learned in a positive way. And I never went to any AA meetings to get sober, or NA meeting. I went to one NA meeting when I was in jail just to get out of my cell, but it wasn't like for any reason other than that. And I didn't even really know about AA until a few years ago. I didn't even know how successful it was until a few years ago. When I started training more people in recovery, training more people in addiction, they're like, you go to meetings? And I was like, I don't. I was like, I know nothing against it. I was like, it just wasn't my walk. And thankfully, I've anonymity to me has meant nothing. I've been very open about my story ever since I've, you know, kind of gotten into recovery. So I'm pretty blessed about that. And then now I'm in the process of working on my third book, you know, working titled like Titans of Recovery, where I interview 100 of the most inspiring sober individuals from around the world, of all different types of recovery, just to show that addiction and recovery doesn't discriminate. But also, like, you know, the way I framed each of the same 5 questions is to show that it works on the roots of the problem. I ask people what their exercise routines are like, who they hang out with, what their spiritual life's like, what their relationships are like, because I want to prove to people that just because, like you said earlier, just because you've gotten sober, just because you're in recovery, doesn't mean you're necessarily healthy. You know, what are you doing to rebuild your life? What are you doing to you know, kind of manage your stress in a healthy way? So, you know, I appreciate you having me on, and any questions, like I said, I mean, I'm here, and that's my story in a nutshell, if you will.
Nice, man. Thank you so much, dude. You had to grow up pretty fast.
Yeah.
And the first thing that jumps out to me is parents' divorce, 5 years old. You know, people see you doing drugs and, you know, abusing drugs and alcohol in high school and, you know, later on in life. And you look at somebody that's struggling and you're like, dude, why are you doing that? You're making terrible decisions. But it's not about the drugs. It's about what's underneath that. And so I always try to encourage people to look underneath the surface, look underneath the drugs and the alcohol are the solution. It's like, that helps calm the nerves. Like you said, you felt like, you felt more confident. You felt more at peace and at ease within yourself when you numbed yourself up. And that's, I think, and also part of the weight. Would you say that part of your weight, your doughiness, as you described it, as a kid, was the emotional weight that you're carrying? Because you were working out the same, you were as active as your other friends, but you had more weight than them. Do you believe some of that was could be attributed to some emotional weight that you're carrying?
I mean, yeah, I do. But I honestly think genetically, if you look at a lot of my family, there's a lot of obesity. There's diabetes. There's some other diseases in there too. I mean, yeah, so that was definitely part of it. And I also think that it's very important to look at the underlying causes of a lot of these things. Like, I think addiction's something that's an internal thing that's displayed externally with people. And, the drugs are just a solution, right? You got to look at the problem. So, and I think you hit the nail on the head with just trying to dig deeper underneath that initial layer, because nobody wants to be doing drugs, right? I mean,
yeah, exactly. We don't grow up going, man, I want to be a drug addict.
Exactly. And I've posed that question when I speak to kids. I go, raise your hand if you want to grow up and be a drug addict. And, nobody raises their hand. I said, well, there's a good chance it's a few of you in here will, just based statistically.
Yep.
And I said, it's just going to depend on how you choose to live your life going forward, on whether you be a statistic or on the positive side or on the negative side.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Look at the weight. People use food as a drug as well. So maybe somebody listening out there, maybe they're not a alcoholic or a drug addict, but they could be, a shopaholic, or let's say food is your drug of choice. Again, not looking at the individual. Not the eating isn't the problem. It's what's underneath that. And so many people don't take the time to take care of themselves, to slow down in this fast-paced, social media crazed world where we're always looking outside to everybody else, and when we really need to just kind of be most importantly, look at ourselves first. And the food can be just another drug that people turn to, and you got to look at I encourage people to look at the feelings underneath that, and the why, and recognize what the feelings are, and then why the feelings. Well, man, the divorce, maybe it's a failed business venture, or you lost, something in investments, and that was, a big failure, and that was kind of traumatic for you. So I think it's important for folks to kind of look at their feelings and the why behind the feelings.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, with food, I think a lot of people, they turn to that because it's like the most overabused anti-anxiety drug there is. People, when they get anxious or stressed, they just turn to eat because it gives them that dopamine response. They feel good when they eat sugar. They feel good when they eat the processed carbs. And people, I just try to encourage people to build that solid foundation when they get in the recovery of eating a well-balanced nutrition plan, of working out, because odds are, like, a lot of the reasons that you started using the drugs in the first place are going to creep up again if you're 400 pounds in recovery. Because there's no possible way you're 400 pounds in recovery and you're happy. Unless you have a significant illness that you cannot control, which, again, you're probably still not happy. And so I just try to encourage people, like, listen, like, you got to, take care of yourself. You got to take care of your body. You got to stop, vaping all day and smoking, 2 packs of cigarettes. Because it's great to say that, you're getting off the drug, but if you just don't really fix the actual root of the problem and you just kind of put Band-Aids on things, I think things are just will filter out and creep up in the rest of your life. That's just my opinion. I'm a little different than a lot because I had to white knuckle myself through everything. And when I hear a lot of people, talking about, well, it's okay because at least I'm not doing this. I'm like, yeah, that's cool, but that's not an excuse for you to just kind of sit on the couch and not exercise. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You feel like a sense of accomplishment, like, hey, I got over one big hurdle. I got that put behind me. I can sit and relax for a little bit. And then it's kind of like whack-a-mole. You get one down and then something else pops up, and now you may want to address that 250 pounds that you gained since you went to treatment.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people, they just think that, I mean, one of the biggest challenges I see with people is they are afraid to get started because they're, embarrassed. But, I always tell people, I'm like, well, are you going to be more embarrassed when you gain another 50 pounds over the next 3, 4, 5 years from not doing anything? Or are you going to be more embarrassed by going to the gym for once in your life or whatever, and just, having yourself getting comfortable being uncomfortable? Because that's what I think recovery is about. You got to get comfortable being uncomfortable. It's not easy to change your friends. It's not easy to set goals in your life. It's not easy to go out and get a job. It's not easy to take responsibility for yourself, but you have to do it if you're going to succeed in recovery. I mean, at least, in what I've experienced, I mean, like I said, I've interviewed probably 60 to 70 people for this book that are all doing really incredible things in recovery, and they all have a lot of the same things in common. They kind of have taken responsibility for themselves. They work out. They have acknowledged that it's up to them to make the right choices in their lives. No one's going to do it for them. And I think the minute you pass that self-reliance of yourself onto somebody else, I think you set yourself up to lose every single time, because you got to want it more than anybody else wants it for you.
Amen. Well stated. So we're talking about making changes, both physically, which carries over to mental, emotional, spiritual. If somebody comes to you, I know everybody's different. Every client or every person is different. But what would be if somebody's out there and they're looking to get started, and they're looking to just get started? You started out not even being able to do one push-up on your knees, and to get where you are now is just incredible. Where would you recommend if somebody came to you, said, "Hey, man, I'm overweight and I'm struggling"? What would you tell them to start with? I mean,
I think the main thing with people is starting them with where they're at. And I think that's a big mistake a lot of fitness professionals make, is we try to start everybody where we're at and not where they're at. And it discourages people. You got to really meet people with where they are with getting started. So I would just tell somebody, I would have to probably, I would like to try to somewhat assess them so I can kind of really see what they got going on. But, you just kind of say, like, what kind of physical health are you in? I mean, how many push-ups you just need to do every 30 seconds? I mean, just walk them through some simple tests they can do to see, where you could best guide them. Or what's your nutrition like now? What are you eating? What are you not eating? How do you feel about yourself? And then try to get to the emotional pain points of people, because a lot of people, John, their main goal isn't to lose 20 pounds. Their main goal isn't to get stronger. It's to feel better, right? And so once you get people to acknowledge that that's the real reason they want to lose that weight, it's not, the weight's just the tool, right? But the main goal is they want to lose the weight because they want to feel better about themselves. They want to feel more confident when they're, out on the beach. They want to feel more confident when they're at family functions. They want to feel more confident when they're job interviews. So, just asking the right questions, I think, is what really is going to make the biggest difference on an initial call with somebody, trying to figure out what's best for them, whether they're in recovery or not. I think it doesn't really change the way I approach people.
Nice. I think that's awesome, man. And what you just described to me sounded very similar to what a 12-step sponsor does. Assess where they're at. In 12-step work, there's certain things that you need to do. Step 1, step 2, step 3, that help get deeper and purge some of the stuff that you're dealing with, so that you can move on and find a healthy way to move past that. And it sounds, real similar to what you, do with clients. Take assessment, see where they're at, meet them where they are, and go from there.
Yeah, I always try to tell people when it comes to, because I've been through the 12 steps, just so I can be familiar with them and everything. But I've always tell people that I'm working with in recovery that are 12-step people, I'm like, just think about your fitness. Like, you wouldn't go from step 1 to step 12 in a day, right? That's not how it works. It's the same with fitness. Like, you want to make sure you're building that solid foundation so that going forward, it's like you have it all together. You're not trying to, you're not trying to have the goals that should be accomplished 3 months from now, yesterday. So, that's just kind of the way I try to approach it with people. To also get people to practice patience. I know that good things take time, because, as people that struggle with addiction and people that have that impulsive personality, patience is something we all struggle with. So getting people to practice the pause, practice patience, knowing that things happen slowly over time is huge for people, I believe.
Yeah, and what better person to hear from than you? You know, if you're training somebody in the gym, you can go, man, hey, I started out in prison cell. You know,
Yeah.
I'm just asking you to do some push-ups here at this nice gym. You're not in prison. You know.
Right. No, exactly. And I think people, they just, I mean, that's why I think I can relate to people so well, because I wasn't always fit. I wasn't an athlete in high school. I wasn't a person that just was, fitness naturally came to me. I was somebody that hated working out. I hated what I looked like. And it wasn't until I just swallowed my own pride. And I mean, talk about embarrassment. I had all these grown men watching me while I was working out, because you're not in, like, you could just work out like in private, like you're in front of everybody. And but it also just really made me realize that people, like, they don't care what you're doing. I mean, they look at you because they just want to know what you're doing, because if you're doing something different than they're doing, people take notice. It's just the human nature. But most people, they really don't care. You know, people look around because we're humans and we like to do that. But, I would always tell people, they're not looking at you. The only person that, you should be worried about is yourself. And, unless you're doing something real goofy in the gym, which you very rarely see, especially from somebody I'm coaching, you don't see it. But, you have nothing to worry about.
Yeah, so true. Most people are stuck in their head, and they're thinking about themselves or their own problems. That they're not really paying attention to you anyway.
Right.
And I gotta say, man, when I see folks in the gym that are look like they maybe haven't been to the gym in a long time, like, I'm like really proud of them. If this is the thought that comes through my mind. It's like, good for you, dude. Like, that's freaking awesome that you're out here killing it. And I'm self-conscious about myself, and I'm like, kind of, have some level of fitness, and I get self-conscious as well when I'm at the gym sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, I think, like, we talk about this drug epidemic. I think we're in a health epidemic. I mean, you look at, there's close to 200 overdoses a day, whatever the latest statistic is. But if you look at America, we're like 2/3 of Americans are unhealthy or overweight or obese. And you look at I forget the percentages, pretty big percentage of kids are likely to have type 2 diabetes by the time they're 21. I mean, it's crazy. And we're not even, and again, it's all like goes back to the roots of the problems. It has nothing to do with the drugs, and it has nothing to do with the companies. It has to do with, like, it has to do with what we tell, the story we're telling ourselves, how we deal with emotions, how we deal with trauma, how we deal with pain. And I think if we can really start working on that, and I don't know what the answer is, but I think you'll see a shift in a lot of these statistics, because we're managing our stress, managing our depression and anxiety in healthy ways that don't lead to disease.
Yeah, I think a lot of it comes down to personal responsibility. And that was one of the hardest things for me to grasp in recovery, is that I'm personally responsible for my dealing with what life has dealt me. I can't change what's happened to me, but only I can predict my outcome by taking personal responsibility.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. And I think, we somehow, we've increased the adult age, I feel like, from like 18 to like 40 sometimes. And we want these adult responsibilities, but we're afraid to actually do the adult responsibilities. And, life can be hard sometimes. It's not easy. And, nobody said it was going to be easy, but it's just going to be worth it to kind of be that person that, is that knight in shining armor for yourself, that you can be there and be somebody that, is diligent and tenacious and doing whatever you can to change your life, so you can then pay it forward and change somebody else's life. And because, like I said, we play the waiting game. Sometimes we're waiting for somebody else to fix our issues, and nothing's going to happen. And that's why I see a lot of, there's a lot of people in the addiction movement, the recovery movement, looking for the government to change things and looking for this. But I mean, if you're waiting for the government to change something, I mean, you're going to be waiting a long time. I mean, that's just my opinion, and I'm only saying this for myself and just people I've talked. I mean, I talked to a lot of people, and a lot of people who have actually been sober for a long time. Nobody saved them but themselves, and there was a point in their life that they were like, I'm done. This is it. Like, no more. I don't want to feel that pain again. I don't want to feel the way I felt before. And I just try to encourage people to just to maintain a positive attitude too, because I think whether you tell yourself you're right or tell yourself you're wrong, that old quote, you're right no matter what. Like how you see yourself, how you perceive life each day. You're either going to be a victim or you're going to be a victor. You're somebody who says, woe is me, or somebody who says, why not me? Or you're somebody who says things happen to me or for me. And the moment you can shift to saying that things happen for you and not to you in life, like I really believe that you can change your life, because then you realize that things are happening for a reason. Doors are closing so another can open, and then you just perceive life in a more positive way. And you're more motivated to go to the gym. You're more motivated to hang out with the right people. You're more motivated to keep plugging away at jobs. Whereas if you say things are happening to me and you get all depressed and you say you're a little pity party, then you tend to fall back in the same patterns that were getting you into trouble in the first place. If that makes sense.
Absolutely. And I think that carries over to what my next question is going to be, your book, Faith, Family, Fitness. Give us a quick snapshot of what that's about.
Well, it's my top 15 lessons I've learned in my life that cover the three words that I'm very passionate about: faith, family, and fitness. Faith, like I consider myself, I'm a Christian, I believe in God, but I don't jam that down people's throats. I respect all religions, spiritual practices. But just having something that you believe in that's greater than yourself, I always try to encourage people to, whether that's Jesus, whether that's Jewish faith, whether that's Buddhism, whether that's service, whatever you call it. But then also faith is having faith in yourself, believing that there's light at the end of the tunnel, even though you don't see it right now. Believing that your life is going to be better, next year than it is today. Just keep that faith in yourself. And then family, like who are you surrounding yourself with? You surrounding yourself with people that bring the best out of you. You're surrounding yourself with people that bring you down. If you're surrounding yourself with people that are constantly abusing drugs and making poor decisions, you're surrounding yourself with people that you aspire to be, having people that are around you that, are challenging you, that are to be a better person. They're supporting you and loving you with no strings attached. And then fitness, like staying mentally, physically, and spiritually fit. Like what are you doing on a daily basis to connect the mind, body, and spirit? Are you working out? Are you eating right? Are you stretching? Are you doing things that make you feel good physically? And I believe when you can do those three things, I believe you'll live a much more prosperous, purposeful, and positive life. And I wrote the book to just kind of just show, as a little self-help book and motivational thing, that, you can do it. And you just got to just kind of start believing in yourself more, start hanging out with better people, and start, working out and eating right. And a lot of things in your life will change. That's kind of why I wrote that book.
Nice. And there's a chapter in there, Who is Your Lighthouse?
Yeah.
And you talk about the importance of the 5 people that you surround yourself with. Like recovery, you can't do it alone. No, I mean, unless you're God.
Right.
Doing recovery on your own is almost impossible. But same thing with your physical health as well, is who you're going to surround yourself with, and asking for help and saying, hey, I can't do this on my own. I want to make some changes, and where can I go to get help? And so tell us about, 5 people that surround you. So tell us more about the lighthouse and how important having that 5 people around you is.
Well, I got to tell you, I mean, just because, you stop using drugs and alcohol or whatever it is, the problems don't go away. Things happen. It's just how you deal with it. And I think having those people in your corner, it really affects you, because if your goal is to get healthier and to work out more, and start hanging out with people that work out more and that are healthier, so that way, like, you almost have that camaraderie, you build that sense of community, that sense of purpose amongst yourselves. And just like people, like the reason that I think 12-step meetings are so great, and I respect them immensely, is because they build community of people who don't want to get high or drunk anymore. And so it's just so important to have people to lean on, you mentors, because I think, for me, like, I don't know everything, and the minute I know everything, I know nothing. So it's important to lean on people who are smarter than me, who work harder than me, that have been more successful than me, in a lot of areas of life, so I can continually learn them. When I have an issue, I have a question on, I call them and ask them for help, versus me trying to think I can do it on my own. Because the minute you think you can do it on your own, it's when the ego sets in, pride, and we're always afraid to ask for help. We're always afraid that asking for help is a sign of weakness, where I think asking for help is a sign of confidence, and it's a sign of confidence in who you are, and knowing that, I'm not strong in this area. I don't know this. I mean, why don't I ask somebody who does, so that, 2, 3, 4, 5 months from now or years from now, I can be in a better place than I am today. And I think if you have 5 people in your life and say like 2 of those out of the 5 are people that do drugs and are constantly negative Nancy's, and they're constantly just sucking the life out of you, then what's that going to do to you? I mean, if 40% of the people you spend time with are just sucking the life out of you, I mean, how positive are you going to be? And I never believed that. I thought, I always heard the thing, you're judged by the company you keep, when I was younger. I never believed it. And the older I got, the more I'm like, man, that's so true. And I don't even think it's the judging part. Like, I don't care if people judge me for who I hang out with. It's more like what it does to you as a person. And, like how you feel, how you act, what you say, how you treat other people. And I just think there's so much power in community if you use it in the right way. And there's so much power in community if you use it the wrong way too. I mean, you look at a lot of kids, I think if they were spending their time not hanging around the same knuckleheads they were, using and getting high with, and they were hanging out with people that were making a difference in their own lives and wanting to change, like how much how much of a greater chance would they be to making it in recovery,
Mm-hmm. Speaking of responding, if something is resonating with you, and since this is a recovery kind of focused podcast, if you do want to call in, talk to a treatment specialist to see what kind of treatment options are available for you or a family member, I want to point out you can call Addiction Campuses at 844-888-HELP. That's 844-888-4357. And we've been talking with Doug Bopst and talking about his book, From Felony to Fitness to Free. And his second book is called Faith, Family, and Fitness. Is there anything else that we haven't covered that you'd like to share with us today?
If there's anything I can do, for anybody on the fitness end or anything, they can always reach out to me on social media or any way they can find me. And I appreciate any feedback as well.
Hey, yeah, and how can listeners connect with you specifically? Go and...
Yeah, so I spend most of my time on Instagram, and I'm at Doug_Bopst, and then I also have my Facebook fan page that's Doug Bopst too as well. You can follow me there, and I post like a lot of motivational quotes. I post fitness tips, nutrition tips, mindset tips, as well as some ways that you can also thrive in recovery. So just be sure to follow me, and if there's anything I can do, I'll be happy to help.
Nice. And Bopst is spelled Bopst.
Yep.
Bopst. All right, Doug. Hey, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on High Sobriety with us. Thank you so much for sharing your experience, strength, and hope, and expertise. Man, let us know if you need anything from us over here at High Sobriety.
All right, John. It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to High Sobriety. If you or a loved one are struggling with an addiction, we can help. Call our hotline at 844-888-HELP. That's 844-888-4357. Don't wait. Call today, 844-888-HELP. High Sobriety is an Addiction Campuses podcast.